The silence in the post-exercise briefing room was profound. Supreme Admiral Korthak sat motionless, his 6 arms folded in what could only be described as defeated contemplation. Around the conference table, representatives from dozens of alien species reviewed the tactical data, with expressions ranging from amazement to disbelief. General Vorthak was the first to speak. In 8 hours of combat, 6 human soldiers neutralized 48 of our most elite warriors while accomplishing their primary objective. Commander Nexus processed the engagement statistics through his quantum brain matrix. Human casualties 1, alien casualties 29. Mission completion time differential. Humans succeeded while alien forces were still conducting approach operations. Admiral Zelith's crystalline form flickered with what might have been embarrassment. Our energy expenditure was 3,000% higher than human ammunition consumption, yet we achieved 0% mission success. War Chief Gromar's rumbling voice carried a note of respect. The humans fought like shadows. My warriors are trained to face overwhelming firepower, coordinated assaults, and technological superiority. We were not prepared for an enemy that simply refused to fight the way we expected. Marcus sat quietly at the table, his rifle case beside his chair. His team had performed beyond his highest expectations, demonstrating that human military capabilities were far more effective than anyone in the galaxy had imagined. Sergeant Rodriguez, General Vorthak said, "Your tactical approach contradicted every principle of modern warfare. You avoided direct confrontation, minimized firepower usage, and achieved victory through methods our computers couldn't predict. With respect, sir, that's because your computers are programmed to understand your way of fighting. They couldn't predict our methods because they had no data about human tactical thinking." Supreme Admiral Korthax finally spoke, his voice carrying the weight of military tradition being challenged. "Your victory was achieved through trickery and unconventional methods. In a real war against a properly prepared enemy, such tactics would fail." Marcus considered his response carefully. "Supreme Admiral, with respect, every enemy you've ever faced has known how you fight. They've studied your tactics, prepared for your weapons, and organized their defenses to counter your standard approaches." "Correct," Admiral Zelith acknowledged. "Standard military intelligence includes comprehensive analysis of alliance combat doctrine. But what happens when you face an enemy that fights completely differently? An enemy that doesn't follow the rules you've based your entire military strategy on?" Commander Nexus's optical sensors brightened as he processed this concept. "Tactical uncertainty as a strategic weapon." "Exactly. Your forces are incredibly effective against enemies who fight like you do. But my team proved that alternative approaches can achieve better results with fewer resources." General Vorthak studied the engagement replay on the holographic display. "Your methods require individual skill levels that seem impossible to achieve with standard training protocols." "That's another advantage," Marcus replied. "Your training focuses on technology mastery and unit coordination. Our training focuses on individual adaptability and creative problem-solving." Sergeant Vasquez spoke for the first time during the briefing. "Every human soldier learns to think independently. We can't rely on overwhelming firepower or advanced technology, so we learn to improvise, adapt, and overcome obstacles through ingenuity." Staff Sergeant Chen nodded agreement. "Our equipment limitations force us to become better soldiers. We can't just point and shoot like energy weapons allow. We have to understand ballistics, environmental conditions, target psychology, and tactical timing." War Chief Gromar leaned forward with obvious interest. "This individual adaptability, could it be taught to alien soldiers?" "Some aspects could be," Marcus replied. "But it would require fundamental changes to your training doctrine and military philosophy." Supreme Admiral Korthax's mandibles clicked with skepticism. "You suggest abandoning proven methods for primitive techniques?" "I suggest adding human methods to your existing capabilities," Marcus corrected. "Your energy weapons and technology are incredibly powerful, but imagine combining that firepower with human tactical flexibility." The implications hung in the air as the alien officers considered this possibility. General Vorthak's 4 eyes blinked slowly as he processed the strategic ramifications. "Mixed units," Admiral Zelith said suddenly. "Human specialists integrated with alien technological capabilities." Commander Nexus calculated rapidly. The tactical combinations would be exponentially more effective than either approach alone. Human snipers providing precision targeting while alien forces deliver overwhelming firepower, War Chief Gromar rumbled with growing enthusiasm. Human reconnaissance specialists gathering intelligence while alien sensor arrays provide technological support. General Vorthak stood and began pacing around the conference table. This changes everything. For centuries, we've assumed that technological advancement would automatically translate to military superiority. Technology is important, Marcus agreed, but it's not everything. Sometimes the most advanced solution isn't the most effective one. Supreme Admiral Korthax remained unconvinced. One successful exercise doesn't validate an entire military philosophy. Then let's test it further, Marcus suggested. Real missions, mixed human-alien teams, actual combat situations? Let the results speak for themselves. The proposal sparked immediate debate among the alien representatives. Some species embraced the concept enthusiastically, while others remained skeptical of abandoning traditional approaches. Admiral Zelith's voice cut through the discussion. The Crystalline Collective formally requests human military advisors for our next combat operation. War Chief Gromar's rumbling agreement followed immediately. The Threx clans also request human tactical consultation. Within minutes, representatives from 6 different alien species had requested human military support. The exercise had demonstrated something none of them had expected, that sometimes the most primitive technology could achieve results that the most advanced systems couldn't match. General Vorthak called for order. It appears that human integration into Alliance military operations is no longer a question of if, but how. We'll need to develop new training protocols, modified equipment systems, and completely revised tactical doctrines. The humans will need advanced equipment as well, Commander Nexus pointed out. Their kinetic weapons are effective, but they could benefit from enhanced sensor systems, improved communications gear, and better protective equipment. Marcus smiled at this suggestion. We're always interested in better gear, but we've learned that the person using the equipment matters more than the equipment itself. Perhaps that's the most important lesson, Admiral Zelith observed. Technology serves the soldier, not the other way around. The meeting continued for several more hours as the alien representatives discussed implementation strategies, training programs, and the logistics of integrating human forces into galactic military operations. What had begun as a demonstration of primitive weapons had evolved into a fundamental re-evaluation of modern warfare. As the session concluded, Supreme Admiral Korthax approached Marcus privately. Sergeant Rodriguez, I owe you an apology. I dismissed your methods as primitive without understanding their sophistication. No apology necessary, sir. Different doesn't mean better or worse. It just means different, perhaps, but your different approach achieved what our advanced methods could not. The Supreme Admiral's 6 arms gestured respectfully. I would be honored to have human advisors assigned to my fleet. Marcus nodded. I think that could be arranged, sir. As the alien representatives filed out of the briefing room, discussing the implications of human integration into their military forces, Marcus packed his rifle with quiet satisfaction. The weapon that had been mocked as primitive had proven its worth beyond any doubt. But more importantly, the exercise had demonstrated something far more significant than the effectiveness of kinetic weapons. It had shown that human military thinking, the ability to adapt, improvise, and find unconventional solutions to complex problems, was perhaps the most valuable weapon in the galaxy. The aliens were about to discover that sometimes the oldest ideas were also the newest innovations. And in a galaxy where everyone expected overwhelming firepower and technological superiority, the unexpected effectiveness of patience, precision, and creative thinking would give humanity an advantage that no amount of advanced technology could match. The age of human military advisors in the Galactic Alliance had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same. Marcus's team arrived at the combat exercise facility 3 days before the scheduled engagement. He had selected each member carefully. Sergeant First Class Elena Vasquez, a sniper whose accuracy rivaled his own. Staff Sergeant James Chen, a spotter and communications expert. Sergeant Michael O'Brien, whose demolitions expertise had saved Marcus's life twice. Corporal Lisa Park, a medic with extensive close-quarters combat training. And Sergeant David Kim, a reconnaissance specialist who could move through hostile territory like a ghost. The exercise facility was a massive artificial environment designed to simulate any battlefield condition. Mountains, urban areas, forests, and desert regions could be generated using advanced holographic technology, and physical terrain modification systems. It was here that the galaxy's elite military units tested their capabilities against the most challenging scenarios imaginable. Supreme Admiral Korthax arrived with his personal guard unit, 48 of the most deadly warriors the alien alliance could field. They represented 6 different species, each bringing unique abilities and advanced technology to the engagement. Their energy weapons could level buildings, their armor could withstand direct hits from plasma cannons, and their tactical coordination was legendary throughout the galaxy. General Vorthak met both teams at the facility entrance. "The exercise parameters are simple," he announced. "Intelligence indicates that hostile forces have occupied a mountain research facility. Your mission is to neutralize the threat and secure critical data from the facility's central computer." He activated a holographic display showing the target area. The facility is built into a mountain ridge with multiple access points and defensive positions. Natural caves and artificial tunnels create a complex 3-dimensional battlefield. Admiral Zelith studied the terrain with professional interest. "Both teams will begin from opposite sides of the mountain. First team to secure the facility and download the data wins." Commander Nexus highlighted key features of the battlefield. The facility includes energy weapon emplacements, automated defense systems, and simulated hostile forces. Full combat conditions will be maintained throughout the exercise. Supreme Admiral Korthax's 6 arms gestured confidently. "My guards will demonstrate proper military efficiency. This exercise will end quickly." Marcus studied the tactical display, noting approach routes, defensive positions, and natural cover. "What are the rules of engagement?" "Full contact," War Chief Gromar rumbled. "Weapons are set to training mode. They'll disable rather than destroy, but the tactical effects are identical to live combat." "Communication restrictions?" "None," General Vorthak replied. "Both teams may use their standard communication protocols." Marcus nodded and gathered his team for briefing. While the aliens conducted their own planning session with typical military precision, the humans huddled around Marcus's hand-drawn map of the target area. "Standard alien tactics," Marcus explained to his team. "They'll move in coordinated formation, use overwhelming firepower to suppress defensive positions, and advance methodically toward the objective." Sergeant Vasquez studied the terrain features. "Multiple approach routes. They'll probably split into 3 or 4 assault groups." "Exactly," Marcus agreed. "Which means they'll be predictable. Chen, I want you monitoring their communications. O'Brien, can you create some surprises for them?" The demolitions expert grinned. "I've got some ideas. Nothing that will hurt them, but it should slow them down. Park, you and Kim will handle close reconnaissance. I want to know where they are and what they're doing before they know we exist." Corporal Park checked her medical supplies while reviewing the tactical display. "What about the facility's defenses?" "Let them handle those," Marcus replied. "Every automated system they trigger will tell us exactly where they are." The exercise began at dawn. Supreme Admiral Korthax's guard unit advanced in perfect formation, their energy weapons scanning for threats as they approached the mountain facility. Their movement was textbook military precision, coordinated, disciplined, and overwhelming. Marcus's team took a completely different approach. Instead of advancing toward the facility, they moved to elevated positions that provided overwatch of the entire battlefield. Sergeant Vasquez positioned herself on a ridge 800 meters from the facility's main entrance, while Marcus took a position covering the eastern approaches. "Ghost to all units," Marcus whispered into his comm system. "Execute Plan Delta." Sergeant O'Brien had spent the previous night placing carefully concealed charges throughout the mountain passes. Not enough to harm the alien soldiers, but sufficient to create rock slides, block passages, and generally make their advance much more complicated than expected. The first explosion occurred as the alien advance guard moved through a narrow canyon. Rocks tumbled down, blocking their path and forcing them to find alternate routes. No one was injured, but their coordinated advance immediately became disorganized. "What was that?" Supreme Admiral Korthax's voice crackled over the communication channels that Sergeant Chen was monitoring. "Unknown explosive devices," came the reply. "The path is blocked. We need to find another route." Marcus smiled as he watched the alien forces through his scope. They were adapting to the obstacle, but their adaptation was predictable. Military doctrine dictated specific responses to blocked passages, and Marcus had anticipated each of those responses. A second explosion echoed through the mountains as another alien unit triggered O'Brien's surprises. Then a third. Within an hour, the perfectly coordinated assault had become a series of scattered units trying to navigate an increasingly complex obstacle course. "Ghost, this is Overwatch," Sergeant Vasquez reported. "I count 3 separated groups. The largest is approaching the main facility entrance. Copy, Overwatch. Take your shots." Vasquez's rifle cracked twice, and 2 members of the alien advance guard suddenly found their armor systems disabled by the training rounds. They were effectively eliminated from the exercise, but unharmed. "Sniper," the alien unit leader shouted. "Take cover!" The aliens immediately began suppressing fire toward Vasquez's position, their energy weapons lighting up the mountainside with brilliant displays of firepower. But Vasquez had already moved to a secondary position, and their shots struck empty rock. "Ghost, they're concentrating heavy fire on Overwatch's previous position," Sergeant Chen reported. "No attempt to locate actual sniper position." Marcus watched through his scope as the aliens poured hundreds of energy bolts into an area Vasquez had abandoned 5 minutes earlier. Their doctrine called for overwhelming suppression of sniper positions, but it assumed the sniper would remain stationary. "Stalker, can you get close to the eastern group?" Marcus asked. "Already in position," Sergeant Kim replied. "They passed within 50 meters of my hide position without detecting me. Take out their communications officer." Kim's rifle fired once, and suddenly, the Eastern Assault Group found themselves without radio contact. They began using hand signals and emergency communication protocols, but their coordination immediately degraded. The engagement continued throughout the day. Each time the alien forces adapted to one human tactic, Marcus's team employed something completely different. They used mobility instead of firepower, patience instead of aggression, and precision instead of overwhelming force. Sergeant O'Brien continued to create obstacles and diversions, forcing the aliens to constantly adjust their routes and tactics. Corporal Park provided intelligence on alien movements while preparing for close-quarters engagement if needed. Sergeant Chen monitored alien communications, providing Marcus with real-time intelligence about their plans and reactions. By afternoon, Supreme Admiral Korthax's 48 elite warriors had been reduced to fewer than 20 effective combatants. They had triggered every automated defense system in the facility, expended enormous amounts of ammunition, and still hadn't reached their objective. Marcus's team, meanwhile, had lost only 1 member. Sergeant Kim had been detected during a close reconnaissance mission and eliminated by alien fire. But his sacrifice had provided crucial intelligence about the facility's interior defenses. "Ghost, this is Overwatch," Vasquez reported. "I can see the data terminal from my position. Clear shot through the facility's main window." Marcus checked his watch. The exercise had been running for 8 hours, and the alien forces were becoming increasingly frustrated and disorganized. It was time to end this. All units execute final phase. What happened next would become legend in human military circles. Instead of assaulting the facility like the aliens expected, Marcus's team simply bypassed it entirely. Sergeant O'Brien created a diversion with his remaining explosives, drawing the alien defenders toward a false threat. While they responded to the diversion, Sergeant Vasquez put a training round through the facility's window and into the data terminal. "Exercise complete," announced the simulation controller. "Human team has successfully downloaded target data." Supreme Admiral Korthax's voice echoed across the battlefield with shock and disbelief. "Impossible. We never even saw them approach the facility." Marcus keyed his radio for the final time. "That's because we never did approach it, Supreme Admiral. Sometimes the best way to solve a problem is to think around it instead of through it." Word of the mining station victory spread quickly through Galactic Council military channels. Within days, Marcus found himself facing a stream of alien officers who wanted to understand how a single human with primitive weapons had accomplished what their advanced technology had failed to achieve. General Vorthak called an emergency meeting of the military high command. The conference room buzzed with alien languages as representatives from dozens of species discussed the implications of Marcus's performance. Some were intrigued, others skeptical, and a few openly dismissive. The success was clearly an anomaly, declared Supreme Admiral Korthax of the Hegemony Fleet. His 6 arms gestured dismissively as he spoke. "One lucky engagement doesn't invalidate centuries of military evolution. Admiral Zealeth's crystalline form reflected her disagreement. The statistics suggest otherwise, Supreme Admiral. 3 successful engagements, 100% target elimination rate, minimal resource expenditure. These results aren't random. Commander Nexus processed data streams from his quantum brain matrix. Analysis indicates that human kinetic weapons possess tactical advantages our previous assessments failed to consider. Silent operation, no energy signature, independence from power systems. Advantages that are meaningless against proper energy shielding, Supreme Admiral Korthax retorted. These raiders weren't using military-grade protection. Marcus sat quietly at the conference table, listening to the debate while maintaining his equipment. The alien officers argued around him as if he weren't present, their various theories becoming increasingly complex and divorced from practical reality. War Chief Gromar's rumbling voice cut through the discussion. Perhaps we should ask the human directly instead of theorizing about his methods. All attention turned to Marcus. He set down his cleaning rod and faced the assembled alien leadership. You want to know why the mission succeeded? Indeed, General Vorthak replied. Our analysis suggests your weapons shouldn't have been effective against advanced opponents. Your analysis is focused on the wrong things, Marcus said. You're comparing energy output and firing rates, but those aren't the only factors that matter in combat. Supreme Admiral Korthax's 6 eyes focused on Marcus with obvious irritation. Then enlighten us, Primitive. What factors could possibly outweigh technological superiority? Marcus stood and walked to the tactical display. May I? General Vorthak nodded, and Marcus activated the holographic projector. The mining station battle appeared in 3-dimensional detail, showing the positions of all forces during the engagement. Your standard tactical doctrine is based on overwhelming firepower, Marcus began. You identify targets, mass your forces, and eliminate threats through superior energy weapons. It's effective, but it's also predictable. He manipulated the display to show the raider defensive positions. The enemy knew your tactics. They positioned their forces to counter your approach, concentrated their firepower at obvious attack points, and prepared for the kind of frontal assault your doctrine favors. Correct, Admiral Zealeth acknowledged. Standard defensive preparation against alliance forces. But they didn't prepare for this, Marcus continued, highlighting his infiltration route. A single operator using unpredictable methods, targeting specific individuals rather than broad areas, operating silently without energy signatures that their sensors could detect. Commander Nexus's optical sensors brightened. Tactical unpredictability is a force multiplier. Exactly. Your energy weapons are powerful, but they're also loud, bright, and obvious. Everyone knows when and where you're shooting. My rifle is quiet, leaves no energy trail, and doesn't register on most sensor systems. Supreme Admiral Korthax's mandibles clicked dismissively. Stealth has its place, but ultimately warfare comes down to firepower and technology. Marcus smiled. Does it? Let me ask you something, Supreme Admiral. How many shots did your forces fire during the mining station assault? Approximately 4,000 energy discharges, Commander Nexus provided after a brief calculation. And how many targets did they eliminate? 37 confirmed hostile casualties. So 4,000 shots to eliminate 37 targets. That's about 108 shots per kill. Marcus gestured to his rifle. I fired 12 shots and eliminated 8 key targets that broke their entire defensive structure. The mathematics were undeniable, and the alien officers processed this information with varying degrees of acceptance. General Vorthak's 4 eyes blinked, slowly as he absorbed the implications. Your efficiency rate is significantly higher than our standard operations, he admitted. But it's not just about efficiency, Marcus continued. It's about thinking differently. You see warfare as a problem to be solved with technology. I see it as a chess match where psychology and timing matter as much as firepower. War Chief Gromar leaned forward with interest. Explain this psychology. Your enemies expect you to fight like you always fight. Massed formations, energy weapons, direct assault. They prepare for that. But what happens when you do something completely unexpected? Marcus manipulated the display to show the raider communications during the battle. Watch their reaction when their heavy weapons position went silent. They didn't understand what happened. No energy discharge, no explosion. Just their weapons suddenly offline. The holographic display showed increasing confusion in the raider communications as Marcus's shots eliminated key personnel without any obvious cause. Fear, Admiral Zelith observed. They became afraid of an invisible enemy. Exactly. And fear makes people make mistakes. They abandon their positions, break communications discipline, stop thinking tactically. By the time your assault began, they were already defeated psychologically. Supreme Admiral Korthak studied the tactical data with obvious reluctance. These methods might work against raiders and pirates, but what about a proper military force with modern equipment and training? I'd be happy to demonstrate, Marcus replied. The challenge hung in the air like a gauntlet thrown down. The alien officers exchanged glances, their various forms of communication creating a symphony of clicks, buzzes, and electronic tones. General Vorthak's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. What kind of demonstration did you have in mind? A realistic combat exercise. Your best unit against a human sniper team. Full tactical scenario, multiple objectives, real combat conditions. One human team against an entire alien unit. Commander Nexus calculated rapidly. The probability calculations are overwhelmingly unfavorable for human forces. Are they? Marcus asked. Because I'm thinking your calculations might be based on assumptions that aren't valid anymore. Supreme Admiral Korthax's 6 arms moved aggressively. Very well, human. If you're so confident in your primitive methods, we'll arrange a proper test. My personal guard unit against your sniper team. Full military exercise with live fire conditions. How many people in your guard unit? Marcus asked. 48 of the most elite warriors in the galaxy, each equipped with the latest energy weapons and powered armor. And I can use how many humans? To make it fair, we'll allow you 6 operators. Marcus smiled. 6 humans with kinetic weapons against 48 aliens with energy weapons and powered armor. Sounds about right. War Chief Gromar's rumbling laugh filled the conference room. I like this human's confidence. Admiral Zelith's crystalline form sparkled with anticipation. This will be the most comprehensive test of human military capabilities ever conducted. General Vorthak stood and addressed the assembly. Very well. We'll arrange the exercise for next week. Full tactical scenario, realistic combat conditions, and comprehensive monitoring. This will settle the question of human military effectiveness once and for all. As the meeting adjourned, Marcus began planning his team selection. He would need specialists, another sniper, a spotter, a demolitions expert, a communications specialist, and a medic who could also handle close-quarters combat. But most importantly, he needed soldiers who understood that sometimes the best technology was no substitute for human ingenuity, patience, and the willingness to think differently than everyone expected. The aliens were about to learn that lesson the hard way. The opportunity for real combat came sooner than anyone expected. 3 days after Marcus's demonstration, emergency alerts echoed through the Galactic Council facility. Commander Nexus's optical sensors glowed bright red as he processed incoming data streams. We have a situation, he announced to the assembled officers. Hostile forces have occupied the mining station at Kepler 442b. Intelligence indicates they're using advanced shielding technology and energy weapons. General Vorthak's mandibles clicked rapidly as he reviewed the tactical display. The Zephyrian raiders again. They've been hitting Outer Rim facilities for months. Our previous attempts to dislodge them have been challenging. Admiral Zelith studied the holographic representation of the mining station. Their shield generators protect them from orbital bombardment, and the station's layout makes direct assault costly. We've lost significant forces in previous engagements. War Chief Gromar's voice rumbled with frustration. My warriors are eager for battle, but the raiders' energy weapons outrange our standard equipment. They maintain defensive positions and pick off our forces during approach. Marcus listened to the discussion while cleaning his rifle. The alien officers had been debating strategy for an hour, without reaching any conclusions. Their various tactical doctrines seemed to revolve around overwhelming firepower and frontal assault. But the enemy had apparently found ways to counter those approaches. What's the layout of the mining station? Marcus asked. General Vorthak manipulated the holographic display to show detailed schematics. The station is built into an asteroid. Multiple levels, narrow corridors, and limited approach routes. The raiders have established defensive positions at key choke points. How many hostiles? Estimated 30 to 40 combatants, well armed and entrenched. Marcus studied the display, noting the defensive positions and sight lines. What about external approaches? Are there any maintenance hatches, ventilation systems, or emergency exits? Commander Nexus highlighted several points on the station's exterior. Multiple service tunnels and external maintenance platforms. However, they're monitored by sensor arrays and defended by automated systems. Automated systems, Marcus repeated. What kind of targeting systems do they use? Standard thermal and motion detection, Admiral Zelith replied. Very effective against conventional assault forces, but not necessarily against a single infiltrator moving slowly and using natural cover. The alien officers exchanged glances. General Vorthak's four eyes focused on Marcus with interest. You're suggesting a stealth approach? Our tactical doctrine emphasizes coordinated unit assault with overwhelming firepower. Sometimes overwhelming firepower isn't the answer, Marcus said. Sometimes you need precision and patience. War Chief Gromar leaned forward. Explain your strategy, human. Marcus approached the holographic display and pointed to several locations. The raiders are defending against direct assault, so they're watching the main approaches. But they probably aren't expecting a single sniper to infiltrate from an unexpected direction. The asteroid's rotation period is 6 hours, Commander Nexus provided. The station maintains artificial gravity through centrifugal force. Perfect, Marcus said. That gives me predictable gravity conditions and regular shadows for concealment. I can use the station's own rotation to mask my approach. Admiral Zelith's crystalline form flickered with skepticism. 1 soldier against 40? Even with surprise, the odds are overwhelming. I don't need to fight all 40 at once, Marcus replied. I need to eliminate key targets that will disrupt their defensive coordination. Take out their leaders, their heavy weapons operators, maybe their communications equipment. General Vorthak studied the tactical implications. Interesting. Create chaos in their ranks while avoiding direct confrontation? Exactly. While they're trying to figure out what's happening, your forces can exploit the confusion for a coordinated assault. The alien officers discussed this strategy among themselves, their various forms of communication creating a cacophony of clicks, buzzes, and electronic tones. Finally, General Vorthak spoke. This approach contradicts our established tactical doctrine, but your demonstration suggests that human methods may have merit. Very well, Sergeant Rodriguez. We'll attempt your infiltration strategy. 6 hours later, Marcus found himself floating in space near the mining station, using a modified alien stealth suit that masked his thermal signature. The station rotated slowly against the backdrop of distant stars, its lights creating a familiar pattern of shadows and illumination. Through his rifle scope, Marcus could observe the raider positions. They had indeed concentrated their forces at the main access points, exactly as he had predicted. Heavy weapons teams covered the primary docking bays, while roving patrols monitored the secondary approaches. Marcus activated his comm system. Command, this is Ghost. I'm in position and beginning reconnaissance. Copy, Ghost. General Vorthak's voice crackled through the communicator. Our assault force is standing by at your discretion. Understood. Give me 20 minutes to thin their ranks. Marcus maneuvered carefully around the station's exterior, using maintenance structures and communication arrays for cover. The radar sensors swept past him repeatedly, but the stealth suit and his slow, deliberate movements kept him undetected. His first target was a heavy weapons position covering the main docking bay. Through his scope, Marcus could see the weapon operator and his spotter, both focused on the approaches where they expected the alien assault to come from. They never looked behind them. The M40A7 fired silently in the vacuum of space. The heavy weapons operator suddenly slumped over his controls, and his spotter turned in confusion just as Marcus's second shot found its mark. The heavy weapons position was neutralized without anyone else on the station realizing what had happened. Command? This is Ghost. Primary heavy weapons position is down. Confirmed. Ghost. We're monitoring their communications. No alert has been raised. Marcus moved to his next position, a communications array where several raiders were coordinating defensive positions. The shot was more challenging due to the angle and the target's partial concealment. But Marcus had dealt with worse conditions. The communications officer dropped without a sound, and suddenly the raider chatter became confused and fragmented. Without their primary coordinator, the various defensive positions began operating independently. Ghost. Their communications are degrading. Continue as planned. The third target was the most challenging yet. A sniper position on the station's upper level, nearly 800 meters from Marcus's current location. The raider sniper was skilled, constantly scanning for threats and never remaining in one position for long. Marcus waited patiently, studying the enemy sniper's pattern. After 15 minutes of observation, he identified a brief moment when the target would be exposed while moving between cover positions. The shot required precise timing and perfect ballistic calculation. When the moment came, Marcus fired. The Raider sniper's rifle tumbled into space, followed by its owner. "That's 3 key targets down, Command. Your assault teams can move now." "Acknowledged, Ghost. All units, begin assault. Move fast and stay coordinated." The alien assault force launched from their concealed positions, moving toward the station's main access points. Without their heavy weapons, communications coordinator, and sniper support, the Raiders found themselves unable to mount an effective defense. Marcus continued to provide overwatch, picking off targets of opportunity as the alien soldiers advanced. His shots disrupted Raider attempts to reorganize, eliminated officers trying to rally their forces, and cleared obstacles for the advancing assault teams. War Chief Gromar's warriors moved through the station's corridors with devastating efficiency, their overwhelming firepower finally able to be brought to bear effectively. Admiral Zelith's forces secured key objectives while Commander Nexus's units systematically cleared remaining resistance. The battle lasted less than an hour. When it was over, the mining station was back in Alliance hands and the Raider force had been completely eliminated. The alien assault teams had achieved their objectives with minimal casualties. "Ghost, this is Command," General Vorthak's voice carried a note of amazement. "Mission accomplished. Your targeting eliminated their command structure and heavy weapons before our assault began." "Happy to help, Command. The aliens fought well once the odds were evened." "Sergeant Rodriguez," Admiral Zelith's voice joined the communication. "We owe you an apology. Your methods proved far more effective than our initial assessment suggested." Marcus smiled as he prepared to return to the command ship. "No apology necessary, ma'am. Different tools for different jobs." The simulation environment materialized around Marcus with stunning realism. He found himself on a rocky hillside overlooking a valley filled with structures that resembled an alien military compound. The air felt thin, suggesting a high-altitude environment, and he could sense a crosswind from the east. The first target appeared at 600 meters, a holographic enemy soldier moving between buildings. Marcus settled into a prone position, his rifle steady against his shoulder. Through his scope, he could see the target clearly, noting its movement pattern and the environmental factors that would affect his shot. The alien observers watched through their sensors as Marcus remained motionless for nearly 30 seconds. General Vorthak's mandibles clicked impatiently. "Is there a malfunction with his weapon?" Admiral Zelith asked. Commander Nexus scanned Marcus with multiple sensors. "No technical difficulties detected. The human appears to be waiting." Marcus ignored the alien commentary, focusing entirely on his target. He observed the wind patterns by watching debris move through the compound, calculated the gravitational drop for the 600-meter shot, and noted the target's predictable movement between 2 buildings. The crosswind gusted and Marcus waited. When it settled for a moment, he squeezed the trigger. The M40A7 fired with a sharp crack that seemed almost quiet, compared to the energy weapons the aliens had been using. Through his scope, Marcus watched the target stop moving. The holographic soldier flickered and disappeared, indicating a successful hit. "Target eliminated," announced the simulation controller. The alien officers checked their sensors. "Confirmed hit," Commander Nexus reported, sounding surprised. "Single projectile, center mass strike." A second target appeared at 800 meters, this one partially concealed behind cover. Marcus adjusted his position slightly, accounting for the increased range and the target's limited exposure. Again, he waited for the optimal moment. "Why doesn't he fire immediately?" General Vorthak asked. Through his scope, Marcus could see only a small portion of the target, part of a shoulder and an arm holding a weapon. It wasn't much, but it was enough. He controlled his breathing, let his heart rate settle, and fired. The target disappeared. 2 shots, 2 kills, the controller announced. War Chief Gromar's rumbling voice carried a note of interest. "The precision isn't unexpected." The simulation continued, targets appearing at various ranges and positions. Some moved erratically. Others remained stationary but were heavily concealed. A few appeared at extreme range, over 1,000 meters away. With each shot, Marcus demonstrated something the alien observers had never seen before. He didn't simply point and fire like their energy weapons allowed. Instead, he read the environment, predicted target movement, calculated complex ballistics in his head, and waited for the perfect moment. At the 15-minute mark, a particularly challenging target appeared. It was located at 1,200 meters, moving quickly between cover positions, and only exposed for brief moments. The alien trainees had consistently missed similar targets during their demonstrations. Marcus studied the target's pattern for a full minute, noting the timing between exposures and the predictable path it followed. When he finally fired, the target had just begun to move from one position to another. "Miss," General Vorthak declared immediately. The target was moving, and the projectile travel time to that range would be "Target eliminated," the controller interrupted. The alien officers stared at their displays in confusion. Marcus had fired at empty space, but somehow the target had been hit. "How is that possible?" Admiral Zelith demanded. Marcus chambered another round. "I didn't shoot where the target was. I shot where it was going to be." Commander Nexus's quantum processors worked furiously to understand the implications. "You calculated the target's future position, factored in projectile travel time, and fired at a point in space the target had not yet reached?" "Yes, sir. But the computational requirements for such a calculation, no computers, sir. Just experience." The simulation continued, and Marcus maintained his perfect accuracy. Targets at various ranges in different lighting conditions, moving and stationary, partially concealed and fully exposed. Each shot found its mark. As the session progressed, the alien observers began to notice other aspects of Marcus's performance that their sensors couldn't fully explain. He seemed to sense targets before they appeared, positioning himself optimally for shots that hadn't yet been presented. His breathing and heart rate remained steady even under time pressure. Most remarkably, he accomplished all of this while using only a fraction of the ammunition their soldiers typically expended. "Simulation complete," the controller announced after 30 minutes. The results appeared on the holographic display, and the chamber fell silent. The alien officers stared at the numbers, checking and rechecking their sensors to ensure accuracy. 100% target elimination, the controller read. Time 29 minutes 43 seconds. Ammunition expended 37 shots. General Vorthak's 4 eyes blinked in rapid sequence. "That's impossible. No soldier achieves 100% accuracy in this simulation. Sensor data confirms all results," Commander Nexus reported, though his voice carried obvious disbelief. Admiral Zelith's crystalline form flickered with confusion. 37 shots? Our soldiers typically require hundreds of shots to achieve 70% accuracy. War Chief Gromar approached Marcus, his massive form moving with surprising grace. "Human, how long have you trained with this weapon?" 15 years with this particular rifle, sir. But I've been shooting since I was 8 years old. 23 years of training, Gromar rumbled. Impressive dedication. It's not just training time, Marcus replied, shouldering his rifle. It's understanding the weapon, the environment, and yourself. Every shot teaches you something. General Vorthak studied the simulation data again. Your weapon has significant limitations compared to our energy systems. Lower velocity, limited range, environmental dependencies, yet you achieved superior results. Yes, sir. Explain this contradiction. Marcus considered his answer. Your weapons are more powerful, faster, and have better range, but they're also more complex. They depend on technology that can fail, power sources that can be depleted, and automated systems that make decisions for the operator. And your weapon? My weapon is simple. It works in any environment, requires no power source, and forces me to become a better soldier. Every limitation makes me think harder, train more, and understand combat at a deeper level. Commander Nexus processed this information. You suggest that technological limitations can produce tactical advantages? I'm saying that sometimes the simplest solution is the most reliable one. Admiral Zelith's form sparkled with what might have been understanding. Your accuracy comes not from the weapon itself, but from the skills the weapon's limitations forced you to develop. Exactly. General Vorthak's mandibles clicked slowly as he absorbed this concept. Fascinating. Your primitive technology produced a soldier capable of achieving results our advanced systems cannot match. The simulation chamber filled with various alien sounds as the observers discussed among themselves. Their conversations were rapid and intense, filled with technical terms and strategic considerations that their translation devices couldn't fully convey. Finally, General Vorthak spoke again. Sergeant Rodriguez, this demonstration has been educational. We may need to reconsider our assessment of human military capabilities. If I may suggest, Sir, Marcus said, perhaps the real test would be in an actual combat situation rather than a controlled simulation. The alien officers exchanged glances. War Chief Gromar's voice rumbled with interest. What did you have in mind, human? Staff Sergeant Marcus Rodriguez received the message while cleaning his rifle at the forward observation post on Europa Station. The encrypted communication from Earth Command was brief but clear. Report to Galactic Council training facility within 72 hours for special demonstration assignment. Marcus set down his cleaning rod and read the message again. 23 years in the Marine Corps, 15 of those as a designated marksman, and he had never received orders quite like these. The attachment contained basic information about alien military technology and a warning that he would be the only human participant in an advanced combat simulation. Hey, Rodriguez, called Corporal Baker from across the barracks. You look like someone just told you Christmas was canceled. Marcus folded his tablet and resumed cleaning his M40A7 sniper rifle. The weapon was old by Galactic standards, but it had served him well through 3 tours in the outer colonies. Just got new orders, Baker. Looks like I'm heading to alien boot camp. No kidding? What's the mission? Some kind of demonstration. Apparently our new alien friends want to see how primitive human weapons work. Marcus ran the cleaning patch through the barrel one more time. They think our gear is outdated. Baker laughed. Outdated? Tell that to the pirate captain you dropped last month at 1,800 meters. Marcus smiled at the memory. The shot had been challenging even by his standards. High wind, low gravity, and a moving target. The alien plasma weapons the pirates had been using were impressive, but they couldn't hit anything beyond close range. His single shot had ended a 3-hour standoff. The transport to the Galactic Council facility took 2 days. Marcus spent the time reviewing the intelligence briefings about alien military technology. The more he read, the more he understood why the aliens considered human weapons primitive. Their energy weapons were indeed more powerful, faster, and had longer range than anything in the human arsenal. But Marcus also noticed something interesting in the technical specifications. The alien weapons required significant power sources, had charging cycles, and seemed to perform poorly in certain atmospheric conditions. Their combat doctrine emphasized overwhelming firepower and frontal assaults. The Galactic Council training facility was impressive. Floating platforms, energy shields, and holographic environments that could simulate any battlefield condition imaginable. Marcus felt like a Stone Age hunter who had wandered into a science fiction movie. General Vorthak met him at the arrival platform, flanked by several other alien officers. The Krex General's 4 eyes studied Marcus with obvious curiosity, focusing particularly on the weapon case slung over his shoulder. Staff Sergeant Rodriguez, General Vorthak said through his translation device, "Welcome to our facility. I trust your journey was comfortable?" "Yes, sir, thank you." Marcus set down his case and stood at attention. "At ease, Sergeant. We're quite curious to examine your weapon system. Our technical staff would like to run some scans before the simulation begins." Marcus nodded and opened his case, revealing the M40A7. The alien officers gathered around, their various optical sensors and appendages examining the rifle with scientific interest. "Fascinating," Admiral Zelith commented, her crystalline form catching the light as she leaned closer. "The construction is remarkably simple. No power cells, no quantum processors, no particle accelerators." Commander Nexus extended several mechanical arms to scan the weapon. Materials analysis indicates steel, aluminum, and polymer construction. The projectile delivery system appears to be purely mechanical with chemical propulsion. "How do you achieve targeting accuracy without computer assistance?" asked the Threx War Chief Gromar. Marcus smiled. "Practice, sir. Lots of practice." General Vorthak's mandibles clicked. "Your weapon has no targeting computer, no ballistic calculator, no environmental sensors. How do you compensate for atmospheric conditions and gravitational variations?" "Experience and training, sir." "I learned to read the conditions and adjust accordingly." The alien officers exchanged glances. Commander Nexus processed this information through his quantum brain matrix. "You perform targeting calculations manually? In real time?" During combat situations? That's right, sir. Inefficient, Admiral Zaleth declared. Our weapon systems handle all targeting automatically. Point fire, target eliminated. May I ask about your ammunition capacity? General Vorthak inquired. Marcus opened a small pouch on his belt. I'm carrying 40 rounds today, sir. 40? The Threx war chief's voice rumbled with surprise. Our standard energy weapons can fire continuously for 6 hours before requiring recharge. Yes, sir, I understand that. But I've never needed 40 rounds to complete a mission. The alien officers found this statement puzzling. General Vorthak's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. Never needed 40 rounds? How is that possible? In our combat simulations, soldiers typically expend hundreds or thousands of shots per engagement. Different philosophy, sir. We're trained to make each shot count. Admiral Zaleth's crystalline form sparkled with what might have been amusement. Sergeant, our weapons can level entire buildings. Why would you need each shot to count when you can simply destroy everything in the target area? Marcus considered his answer carefully. With respect, ma'am, sometimes you need precision instead of power. Sometimes the target is surrounded by civilians or allied forces or critical infrastructure that can't be damaged. Commander Nexus's optical sensors brightened. Interesting tactical consideration. However, our analysis indicates that precision targeting is unnecessary when overwhelming firepower is available. Perhaps, sir. I guess we'll find out during the simulation. General Vorthak led the group toward the simulation chamber. Indeed we will, Sergeant. We've prepared a standard combat scenario for you. Multiple targets at various ranges, environmental obstacles, time pressure. Our top recruits typically achieve 60 to 70% target elimination using standard energy weapons. What's considered a passing score, sir? 80% target elimination is required for advancement to combat status, Admiral Zaleth replied. Marcus nodded as they entered the simulation chamber. The room was vast, filled with holographic projectors and environmental controls that could recreate any battlefield condition. Several alien soldiers were already present, their various energy weapons gleaming under the chamber's lights. These are our current top trainees, General Vorthak explained. They'll demonstrate the proper technique before your attempt. Marcus watched as the first alien soldier entered the simulation. Targets appeared at various distances, some stationary, others moving. The soldier's plasma rifle fired rapidly, sending bright bolts of energy downrange. Targets exploded in brilliant flashes as the high-energy projectiles found their marks. When the simulation ended, the results appeared on a holographic display. 74% target elimination, announced the simulation controller. Time, 4 minutes, 37 seconds. Ammunition expenditure, 216 shots. The other alien trainees performed similarly, with scores ranging from 68 to 79%. Their weapons created spectacular light shows, and the sound of targets exploding filled the chamber. Impressive, Marcus said, and he meant it. The alien weapons were undeniably powerful. Now, Sergeant Rodriguez, General Vorthak said, let's see what your primitive kinetic weapon can accomplish. Marcus stepped into the simulation area and checked his rifle one final time. Around him, the alien officers activated their recording devices and sensor arrays. He could feel their expectation of failure, their certainty that his antique weapon would prove inadequate. Begin simulation, the controller announced. The first target appeared. The Galactic Council chamber buzzed with the clicking sounds of the Krex delegation as they reviewed Earth's military files. General Vorthak's 4 eyes scanned the holographic displays showing human weapons technology. His mandibles clicked in what could only be described as amusement. Primitive chemical propulsion systems, he announced to the assembled alien military leaders. These humans still use gunpowder to launch metal projectiles. How quaint. Admiral Zaleth of the Quantum Fleet leaned forward, her crystalline form refracting the chamber's lights. Their most advanced rifle fires a projectile at barely 3,000 feet per second. Our plasma bolts travel at near light speed. The room filled with various alien sounds of laughter. The Threx warriors made deep rumbling noises while the insectoid hive mind representatives produced a harmonious buzzing. Even the usually stoic Titanium Brotherhood representatives allowed themselves slight metallic chimes of amusement. Look at this, General Vorthak continued, manipulating the hologram to show a human sniper rifle. They call this a long-range weapon system. It can only accurately strike targets at 2 kilometers. Our standard plasma rifles are effective at 50 kilometers. Commander Nexus of the Silicon Collective, processed the data through his quantum brain matrix. According to our calculations, human projectile weapons would be ineffective against even our lightest combat armor. The kinetic energy is insufficient to penetrate our basic defensive systems. The Earth representative, Ambassador Sarah Chen, sat quietly at the far end of the curved table. She had been invited to observe as the Galactic Council evaluated humanity's potential contribution to the Alliance Defense Force. Her face remained neutral, but her fingers drummed silently against her tablet. The humans claim their weapons have something called stopping power, Admiral Zelith read from the report. They seem particularly proud of their sniper rifles and speak of precision targeting as if it matters in modern warfare. General Vorthak's laugh was a harsh clicking sound. Precision targeting? When our plasma weapons can destroy entire city blocks with a single shot, why would anyone need precision? These humans think like primitives because they are primitives. The Krex general pulled up additional files showing human military training videos. Watch this, he said, displaying footage of human snipers in training. They spend months learning to hit targets at distances our recruits master in their first week with energy weapons. Commander Nexus analyzed the footage with mechanical precision. The human appears to be adjusting for wind resistance, gravitational drop, and atmospheric conditions. These variables are irrelevant with directed energy weapons. Exactly my point, General Vorthak replied. While they're calculating wind speed and bullet drop, our soldiers simply point and eliminate the target instantly. There's no travel time, no environmental factors to consider, no complex mathematics required. The Threx War Chief Gromar spoke for the first time, his voice like grinding stone. My warriors have tested these bullets against our armor. They bounced off like insects hitting a mountain. Even their largest caliber rounds barely scratched the surface. Ambassador Chen finally spoke, her voice calm and measured. With respect, General Vorthak, you're evaluating our weapons based solely on their specifications. Perhaps there are aspects of human warfare that don't translate well to technical readouts. The alien leaders turned their attention to her, some with curiosity, others with barely concealed condescension. General Vorthak's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of irritation among his species. Ambassador Chen, he said, warfare is mathematics. Energy output, penetration capability, rate of fire, effective range. Your weapons are inferior in every measurable category. What other aspects could possibly matter? Human adaptability, she replied simply. Our soldiers learn to work with limitations, to find creative solutions, to make every shot count because ammunition and energy are finite resources. Admiral Zelith's crystalline form sparkled with what might have been amusement. Ambassador, your sentiment is charming, but war is not about making every shot count. It's about overwhelming firepower and technological superiority. Your kinetic weapons are museum pieces. The Silicon Collective representative processed additional data. Our analysis indicates that human weapons technology peaked approximately 200 years ago with the development of electromagnetic acceleration systems. Yet they continue to use chemical propulsion for military applications. This suggests technological stagnation. Or maybe, Ambassador Chen said quietly, it suggests that sometimes the old ways work better than you think. General Vorthak's 4 eyes focused on her with predatory intensity. Ambassador, I've commanded fleets in 17 major campaigns across the galaxy. I've seen civilizations with technology far superior to yours crumble before the might of modern energy weapons. Your kinetic projectiles are as obsolete as sword fighting. The hive mind representatives buzzed in unison before speaking through their primary drone. Collective analysis confirms human weapons inadequate for Alliance standards. Recommendation: assign human forces to support roles only. Combat effectiveness negligible. Ambassador Chen nodded slowly. I understand your assessment and I won't argue with your technical analysis. You're right about the specifications. Our weapons are slower, have limited range compared to yours, and require more skill to operate effectively. Then we are in agreement, General Vorthak said, his tone suggesting the matter was settled. However, Ambassador Chen continued, I would like to propose a demonstration. Allow one of our snipers to participate in your next training exercise. No stakes, no wagers, just observation. The alien leaders exchanged glances, their various forms of communication creating a cacophony of clicks, buzzes, and electronic tones. Finally, General Vorthak spoke. Very well, Ambassador. It would be educational. to observe human combat techniques firsthand. We'll arrange for one of your snipers to participate in our standard combat simulation. It will help us better understand how to integrate human forces into support roles. Admiral Zelith leaned back in her chair. I confess I'm curious to see how your soldier performs with such primitive equipment. It might provide insights into human psychology and tactical thinking. Commander Nexus's optical sensors glowed brighter. The Silicon Collective will monitor all aspects of the exercise. The data will be valuable for our strategic databases. Ambassador Chen smiled for the first time during the meeting. I think you'll find the demonstration very enlightening. I'll contact our military. Command and arrange for one of our best snipers to join your exercise. General Vorthak's mandibles clicked in satisfaction. Excellent. We'll schedule the simulation for next week. I look forward to seeing what your primitive weapons can accomplish against modern warfare scenarios. As the meeting adjourned, the alien leaders continued their discussions about human limitations and the proper role for Earth forces in the Alliance. None of them noticed the slight smile that remained on Ambassador Chen's face as she gathered her files and prepared her communication to Earth. Command, the demonstration they had requested, was about to become something far different from what they expected.